Hey, this intro look familiar? Well, the rest of my Ohuhu markers came in the mail the day I uploaded my last Ohuhu marker video. If you want to see me try out their skin tone set, I'll link that video down below. This is their Pastel set, which comes with 48 markers and a bigger case compared to the 24 marker skin tone set, obviously. Anyway, here are the markers in all their pastel glory. Should I do the glowy angel effect here too? Yeah, why not? This set is a newish release. Pretty recent, at least, because every time I tried to buy these, they were out of stock. The company mentioned that they were restocking in March on their website, and thankfully, I was on time, so I got them. I've already seen a couple videos on these across YouTube, so I do have some indication of how they'll work. But like I said in the last video, there's a difference between watching someone use them and actually using them. So let's get these out of their case, shall we? Jesus Christ, that's a lot of markers. Like, it just doesn't seem like much until they're really all splayed out like this. It's going to take me a minute to organize these by color code, so let me just... There we are. So, where are the markers? They're all laid out off screen because I couldn't fit them all into frame. Don't worry, I made sure to do a slow pan over just so you could see them all. I organized them by a mix of their color code and how I thought they would be separated. So we'll see how the swatch card actually organizes them. I generally went in a rainbow order, but as you can tell, their numbers don't necessarily coincide with a nice gradient. It works well enough though. At least the letters make sense for their general color group, except for the grays, but we'll get to that soon. On to the swatching. The first color started out weirdly neon, which I think happened to me with the last set. I knew it was going to fade, I just thought it was interesting. It can be hard to tell with some markers exactly what color you're going to get once it dries down, and the last set had some markers with slightly different colors than their caps. But the ones that started neon always came out right in the end, so who knows. Though I will say, looking at these swatches after they've dried, some of them are still kinda neon. Pastel, sort of, but definitely slightly neon. Like the last two in the second row, light orange and mellow peach. But also light prawn, which is the first on the fourth row. Two next to that one, light hot pink, is also kind of neon, but the light pink 2 rows down looks more hot pink than the hot pink, so it's a little odd. Definitely doesn't match the caps, which you'll notice I keep checking because I want to make sure I'm swatching the right marker. But yeah, same thing happened with the other set, so thankfully the organization of the swatch card is pretty close to how I organized it above. The sets of colors are in different order, but the variations in those groups are the same as how I listed them. So here's the first swatch card. A lot of pinks and blues. And oranges. Not really any reds, but I guess pastel reds are just pinks. Huh. Hadn't thought of it that way before. Anyway, onto the next swatch card and the other half of the markers, which includes the last leftover blue color that didn't fit on the previous card, which is a little annoying, to be honest. Couldn't you have just organized the first card to hold 25 instead of 24 so that you could keep all the blues together? Why'd you have to separate them? How could you? The rest of the colors are the earthy tones and grays, though the second swatch, pale lemon yellow, is insanely neon. Like, highlighter neon. I'm not sure when I'd really use that color unless I purposely created something to incorporate it, but yeah, it's really bright. And not pastel, but I'm no color expert, I guess. I'm actually sort of sad that there's only 5 greens in this whole set. I would have loved to have a whole bunch of greens to play with, but I'll make do with 5, I guess. When it came to the browns, I was kind of surprised that none of them overlapped with the skin tone set. The lipstick natural color that's in the middle of the third row is actually pretty much the same as my Artist Loft color Rouge that I like to use for blush and lips, and I'm actually pretty happy about that. Artist Loft isn't, their markers aren't terrible sometimes, but they definitely don't last very long, so having an Ohuhu marker in the same shade is a nice little backup. Now, the rest of the colors were the grays. These had weird organization letters, so I did my best to organize these the way I thought they looked best. And I wasn't too far off, really. There were 2 in the middle that they put over at the end, but otherwise they made sense, I think. Some of these grays don't seem gray at all, though. Like the warm and yellow grays, they just look sandy and yellow, which I guess is the point. The red grays also look purple, and the blue and green gray look blue and green. I don't know. When I think of grays, I think of them being more gray than the color they're tinted with, but I'm not really complaining. They don't look like any of the other colors in the set, so I'll take it. Here are both completed swatch cards. I think they all look fairly different, which is good. In the skin tone set I used the other day, there were quite a few colors that I think looked a bit too similar. In this pastel set, though, I really only see like 2 or 3 that look similar enough for me to say something. Namely, carmine red and tea rose and pale cherry pink and pink. And actually, something I noticed was that there was also a pale cherry pink in the skin tone set, but when I compared them, they were different. The number code was, I think, also slightly different. I'm not looking at them right now, but I think they were slightly different. So take that as you will. These are all the colors, though, so let's get to actually using them in a drawing. I did the drawing on the right, off screen, and on the left, I did that one and thought I was filming it all, only to find out that I missed the recording button and hadn't filmed any of it. So I used only the pastel set, and I was actually really proud of it, but it didn't record, so time to draw again. I decided to practice posing mostly because I didn't have the space to draw the person standing and still have as much detail as I would like. And I forgot to draw her feet, so her leggings are footed. I don't know if they make footed leggings, but as someone who lives in a colder part of the world, I hope they do. I get literal cold feet all the time, so footed leggings sound fantastic. Anyway, for this drawing, I decided to ink it and erase the pencil before adding the markers this time because I didn't want blue from the pencil to seep into whatever colors I chose. I also made sure to wait a little while for the ink to dry down completely and hopefully not bleed into the marker. Then I set straight to work. I will be honest, I do use a few other colors that aren't in the pastel set for this drawing because the problem I notice is that if everything is pastel, then contrast is pretty hard to create. If everything is soft, the shadows aren't going to seem like shadows and there's a lack of depth. So I do use a couple other markers, but most of this is done with the pastel set, I promise. I wanted to use more of the skin tone set anyway, so that's my excuse. Deal with it. For their hair, I decided to go with a purpley pink vibe, and this is where I ran into the problem of contrast. So what I did was take out a darker purple that I had in my Copic Chow set and add in the darker parts under their ears and behind them, as well as at the top of the head where the part is, and then blended it out with the lightest purple from the pastel set, which I think was Viola. I also colored in their lips with a color from the skin tone set and their eyes with that one blue in the pastel set that got left out from the other blues on the swatch cards. This blue was called Lavender Mist and is easily the darkest color in this pastel set. I hesitate to even really call it pastel, honestly. For their shirt, I went with the very first yellow in the pastel set before realizing that I didn't have a good color to shade it with. The ones I tried didn't quite work, so I took out another Copic Chow and shaded it lightly. Looking at it now, I maybe could have used another shade slightly darker, but it was hard to tell when it hadn't completely dried down yet. Then, for their footed leggings, I went with the same color that I used for their eyes because I wanted to keep the color scheme at least a little cohesive, like semi-coherent. And since it's the darkest color in the pastel set, I didn't exactly have a good color to shade it with. Again, the darkest purple that would have tied it in with their hair just wasn't going to work and it was going to separate, so I used yet another Copic Chow to shade it and called it good. One thing I will say about these markers is that you have to be careful with blending because going over a spot with the same color twice does darken it considerably. And I mean, I know that's the case with most markers, but especially with pastels. It does create more gradients in the blending, sure, but it's just something to be extra mindful of when coloring. I also don't plan through my colors as well as I probably should though, so maybe that's just me. Otherwise, I really like this set too. I think I like it more than the skin tones because it doesn't have a lot of colors that are really close together. Some of them I don't see myself using though, but I expected that when I bought a set with twice as many markers. It could have more greens, that's me being picky, but if you're looking for a set with mostly greens, this might not be it. So that's it. Those are my thoughts, and these are the results. If you enjoyed this, consider liking the video or leaving a comment down below telling me your thoughts. Would you get a lot of use out of these colors? I upload most Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe so you can see my videos when they come out. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.